I'll be right back up. All righty. Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Barrett. I'm an event facilitator here at McNally Robinson Booksellers. And before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, which is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Aninawak, Anishinaabe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, as well as the homeland of the Red River Métis. Additionally, McNally Robinson Booksellers itself rests on the land once occupied by the Métis community of Roostertown. And of course, we are gathered here tonight for the launch of 2 new picture books published by the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center, Bush and the Red Willow, and Bush and the Snow Dogs, both written, of course, by Diana, who's joined with us here tonight, and illustrated by Kaiya Ducharme. Let's give them a nice warm welcome to the two. All right.
Hello.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
All right. Thank you very much. As Daniel mentioned, my name is Mike Hutchinson. I am the Assistant Director of Publishing and Communications at the Manitoba First Nation Education Resource Center. So my department is the department that puts out the books that MFNERC makes. And so I'm very excited to be here with Diana, celebrating her successful books. And I just want to read a little bit about her and tell you a little bit about her. Diana is a proud Saulteaux woman from Lake St. Martin First Nation, located in Treaty 2 territory in Manitoba, Canada. Placed into care at 2 weeks old, she later lived with her biological mother from ages 9 to 12 and spent her youth between Lake St. Martin First Nation, Fairford First Nation, and Winnipeg, aging out of care at 18. Diana is fluent in Ojibwe and knowledgeable in Ojibwe Cree, keeping her language and culture close to her heart. She is a loving mother and lifelong learner. After graduating from River East Collegiate in Winnipeg, she studied business management with a major in accounting. Diana continues to share her passion for learning through a strong commitment to education and community. And so welcome, Diana. How are you doing this evening?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Good. So, well, I guess let's start at the very beginning. What inspired you to write your books?
I think with my kids, raising my kids, I was just in a parent. And every time when they're either sleeping or they're at school, I would start writing. But I kept having to rewrite them over and over because people like to take my stuff. And steal my laptop or my computer.
Okay.
And so I've had to start all over. I've been doing that since 2004, I think. And I'm meeting Steph and Kimberly, and they were a very strong mentor. They helped me write.
That's great.
And because they published 6 of us, well, 4 of the short stories before University of Manitoba.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. Well, so what? The character of Bush is very particular to First Nation cultures. What made you write about him, and sort of where did these stories come from for you?
Well, growing up, one of the places that they placed me with was with my aunt. It was eventually Travers, and she was the one that told me about Bush and the Red Willow. And I just expanded from there. And then before my mom passed, she gave me 3 stories. And that's all they said to go with. And then I thought about it, and then I prayed about it. And then the word is Ippiman, is that how you say it? Ippiman, like I can't say it. Yeah, that's it. And then I'd start, right, drawing them down, napkins, loose leaf, like this container full of stories.
Very cool.
And then I started on my phone myself. There's a lot of stories.
Yes, no, there are. So in your people's, I guess, mythology, who is Name?
Nanabush is a spirit, and it's a prankster. It's really cool. And he did all kinds of things. But I took it from there. Look at birds, or the bees, or the bears, or the animals. And I just spun it all.
Okay, so I'm guessing since you started these in 2004 that your kids aren't toddlers
No.
anymore.
Actually, my oldest is sitting right in front of me.
Okay, so I guess, how do you feel that it's taken so long to make them, but here they are, and you can hold on to them.
Because I kept knocking on doors for people to publish the stories. And I never would stop. And then when I was taking an environmental course at the University of Manitoba, I was on a school trip, like up north by Nelson House. And they heard me talking to the kids about the stories. And that's how stuff. They told me that they wanted to publish the story in the newsletter. And so it took off.
Excellent, good to hear. So can you tell us about your experience at Lake St. Martin and how that might have influenced your stories? Growing up on res.
I speak solo fluently. It's because of the homes that they placed me in. Evangeline, she was very fluent, and so that's all that we talked is our language, because we weren't, the four communities, Dauphin River, Lake St. Martin, and Wisconsin, Fairford, we weren't part of the residential schools, and we were exposed to just schools in the Indian community. We moved into, like, after high school, in high school, that's when they moved us out. And they just, like it was a farming community, makes me want to be a lot of fishermen, a lot of gardening. They were always busy, always working. But because of the flood, 2011, it really changed the dynamics of our community. And because we were the ones that were most affected by the flood. And it was pretty bad. And because I find my comfort in writing. I was trying to, in high school, I was trying to become a journalist in high school. And the counselor had told me that I had such high hopes and high expectations. As an Indigenous person, there was really no motivation to excel. And in Lake St. Martin, a lot of the schools, like when teachers come in, they lower their standards for the kids, and that's why there's not that much success with a lot of Indigenous children and Indigenous youth. And they just, when you meet those right people to motivate you, it really helps.
Did you have a teacher, a favorite teacher that spurred you on and inspired you?
It wasn't until I got to the university that I met my professors that did that, and I was sitting here.
Okay. Good to hear.
and they didn't let me go. It's like they were continually talking to me, motivating me, and there was times when I slept in the vehicle, and he found out, and so he told me that I could stay in one of the rooms, and I was too scared.
Okay.
So I basically I drove 3 hours.
Well, it says here that you have a strong commitment to education. You know, why? Yeah, that seems like an easy thing to answer, but or an easy concept, but is there something that you want to do in education to make change? And are these books part of that?
I was one of my cousins, he's a nurse, he's a male nurse, and Bonnie, because I got very discouraged at that time during the flood, because I wasn't gonna pursue it because people kept telling me no. And it was 2017 when I dropped the books off at the network. And when he talked to me, he said that if this is a legacy for Lake St. Martin, and it's a legacy for the students in our future. To know
You don't want me?
his name is Donnie Helpdown.
Okay.
And so then I got motivation again to start knocking on different publishers. And yeah, so I went over there and they demanded my books back, like my stories back. And the Amber was like she started, and that's who took over.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, we have a backlog of material at NFNPRC that is about 10,000 books long. So we have a lot of projects in the queue, and yeah. So what would you like to happen with these books? Like what effect do you want to have on a kid that is reading this?
The thing is that because I'm solo and I write, I'm starting to teach myself how to write the words in solo. And one of them is that I'm working on a word book, to kind of help, because a lot of the kids, they've lost the language. And our dialect is different. And because we're not Ojibwe people, we're solo people. And it was to teach the kids their language, and even the elders and in general the people around, to let people know that we're in existence in Lake St. Martin, rather than the bad and the positive, that the younger kids in school, that they could achieve, that there's hope, rather than being on welfare, to pursue their education. Because my end goal is to finish my degree, and I always wanted to pursue that more.
What would you like to do with your degree once you have it?
I'm in the 6-year program through one of the universities in the States, and it's correspondence. And my funding, they cut it. So I'm trying to pay half of my tuition so I can finish my schooling. And my family, they've lived in the 90s. So I figured if they could do that, I could do it. And then my third career would be that. And that's in medicine.
Wow, very cool, very cool. So you've mentioned your language a number of times, and the importance of kids learning it. What is it about your language that makes you love it, that makes you think differently because of it?
I'm very honored even though how I was raised, that I was able to learn the language sort of, and because, I would like to, I would just like the kids to learn the language and, for it to be, a thing in the past, and, intentional in what, in what is there, and for people like you to know our dialect and to know our language, because there's a lot of knowledge in this.
There's knowledge in the language itself and concept. I once had an elder tell me, he said, we didn't know that if we taught our kids to say red, that it would make change. That just that very simple, red's red. So why calling it by a different word makes change? And he said, but it did. And our culture is in the language, I guess. There's no other way to put it.
The funny thing, you're talking about colors. We only have 4 colors now in soil. There's only 4. And being with my elderly aunt who's sitting way in the back there, it's actually, she's reintroducing a lot of words that I've forgotten. Yeah, and there's words that I didn't even know existed, but then there's also words that we make up as we're, especially is an airplane.
Should we say that again?
An airplane is called, we made the word up, spastic.
So what are the little bits of that word if you translated them into English?
Spa is I. Spastic is like a thing.
Okay, high thing.
Yeah, it's a high what? Spastic.
Yeah, okay.
Or like kike, that's a new, it's chopstick.
Okay.
And another conference I attended the other day that Dr. Ballard won in our community, she talked about a cell phone. And she made up the word, and he's like,
What's the word? Or do you remember?
no, I don't know.
Well, for those who don't know, in many First Nation languages, history has affected them, certainly recent history. And so, for my language, Cree, there's Old Cree, right? And when you hear people speak Old Cree, especially if you hear them pray in Old Cree, it's almost like a little sing-song. It's almost like a song. Like it's so rhythmic and smooth. And then there's sort of New Cree, and then there's sort of University Cree, and then there's also, I guess you could say, very New Cree, in where we are inventing new words. Like I was in a few communities, and things are different. One community called a microwave a soggy cooker. One called it a fast cooker, and so that process is also happening in amongst our communities and our language. So, you talked about healing, your degrees in medicine. Are these books part of your commitment to healing?
There's 2 books that I'm working on right now. The first one is called The Garbage Bag Kid. And then the second one is called The Little House on the Res. This is kind of a side thing with none of the stories, because there's 15 of them that I.
Yeah, do you want to hear what they're doing in the future?
And then there's one that's a Christmas tradition. That one, there's a publisher that's interested in looking at it. But The Garbage Bag Kid, I talk about when I was moved around. And
Oh.
yeah, and The Little House on the Res. I talk about how it was, how we lived before the flood, the farm, the fishing, sugar beeting and rice picking. And the more research that I did, I'm starting to understand why that way is not our way anymore. And so I wanted to write about it. And the government has changed a lot of indigenous people from more reliant or rely when they rely on the system. And I just wanted to make a change for myself and my children. And just to talk about how precious that time was being in the community with my aunt, my aunts. So I talk about that. It's almost time. It's a chapter book.
That's very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Yeah, we're kind of a generation, I think of myself as a bridge person because I'm, not entirely Cree, not entirely Canadian. And in some ways we're bridge people in time as well, because we, as, as young people, still remember the lifestyle before TV, before cell phones and cars and computers and stuff like that, that was out on the land and, picking medicine and living through action maybe. And it was a good lifestyle. It was a good life. And yes, things have changed, once upon a time when people, if you were a baker, your kid was called Bakerson, and that went on for generations. And now we have boomers and Gen X's, and it seems like there's so much change that we give each generation a different name, and that's a new name. And so I understand the emotional burden of missing that, and our elders that helped live that life, and our grandmas and grandpas that helped, teach us that.
When we were doing stuff, when we were kind of relaxing, that's when the stories would come on. When I wrote a book, when I wrote, like, I was told that's very clear. And, a lot of our elders in our community and a lot of people in our community have died since the flood. And a lot of these stories, a lot of these ways, there's no bringing it back. And I just wanted to, like Donnie had said, we have to write that legacy. We have to make people know what it's like to live in the reserve and what it's like to. There's one project that I've been working on since 2018 on and off. In there, I depict that First Nations, that we have an invisible wall, like a prison, and we can't go out, and we can't, it is very hard to break past that. And if you do break past that and you're trying to come back into the community, you get a resistance from the other community members. And it's very hard when you try and leave the community, you meet another barrier with the non-natives because they're not as accepting. And that's why there's a lot of homelessness of our people in Winnipeg, because it's the largest population of Indigenous people in that setting. And they just wanted to, I just, you wanted to answer.
All good. Okay, well, I think we should move on to the reading portion. If you want to read one of the books, do you have a favorite of the two?
I think I'll read the Red Willow because my aunt, Evangeline, she's in the back there, and I just wanted, I'm very blessed that she's turning 92, and by the way, she still drives. She still has a driver's license. It's very, I can't keep up. But I'm very, I mean, if you can have time for both of them, it's good.
Okay, well, let's start with one and see how long it takes, and we'll go from there.
I have a cheat. It's a lychee. I wrote it down.
Okay. Well, you didn't get too nervous, it's still there.
Like this? Okay.
I can hold on to this.
Okay. I was trying to get this printed out in big boards, big, get them printed out. And then I was told that that's the whole purpose of selling the book, like, so they won't really see, so they have to see, right?
Okay, so I will hold when you read, and I
Okay.
will turn when you turn.
Okay. Do you want me to speak it in Soto, and then I can speak it in English?
Whichever you like. I'm good with either. Yeah.
I'll mix it. Meja pane, Anishinaabe, English Danawe, and the Pushation Kaza. Mizeki Kiawe, a king. With the shway, King the one in the way, King Bachmutawana, Gashima, and Jiwa. This legend starts with Nanabush on the shorelines of Lake Samardi, and we call that Babashkudayam. And that word means Babashkudayam means the breaking of the heart. As the morning sun rose over the lake, the sun's rays flickered and reflected off the water. The air was crisp with a tinge of frigidness from the night before. Jesus saw Kimajaya, Wani Bingoma. Mitashwa Jesus, Dennis Iskat, Nibinima, Kyokjimazo. Mitashwa Kabagna Wingway, Kyo, Kisha Magadaya, Kaiko, which is difficult. While Nanabush was roaming our lands, he was getting tired. He stopped and made a fire by the shore. He could hear the whiskey jack and the other small birds chirping. He did not know they were watching him. With the shore Nanabush is a babam coming is a Migaji was a Magashi cheat. To Migaji was a Kai getting his to the mind. Chi gang. Migaji no Dortmund, Kashmir cousin whiskey jack. To Padeshi and Stigan doubles the what. It is funny weekend as a Niginana Jivat, Niginana Jivat. Nanabush sat looking at the fire. The flames seemed to dance back and forth in time, with the small birds chirping. The fire leaped and crackled into the air. Miss Mamma Nanabush ma kinanata beg and opening voice for the. I think we're going to open the touch way, Nigas Gavin, Zook. Met de sneeuwpinnesjes, King Dawazil, met de space als we ze even As Nanabush sat, his stomach started rumbling. Thinking back, Nanabush couldn't remember the last time he ate. He walked along the shore and managed to catch his dinner. A duck. He prepared it in a pot over the fire. Me mana na bushman and the bit. We can go Mr. Dash. Imagine him down in another day in a fish coach car we smith. Me the shmiman and the bushman of the said the machi ink. Me guys got to the monk. He would see me Egypt. She got to the monk. Me shmiman guys machi. The sheep caught the my said machi scooting. Nanabush was getting tired, so he figured he would take a nap. He told his bum to watch his dinner while it slowly cooked over the fire. And Nanabush, Kaiya goes, Mishmimari, I nabi machi shigishinima. Mega si not many cheating, the knowledge to take this negakis. Nanabush awoke from along his long rest. He stretched out yawning, thinking how good of a nap it was. Suddenly his stomach growled, and Chinundavo Diliki Shatash. Then it growled louder. Nanabush remembered his supper. Among could they to be smithy. Mishmi Magajik Moseti Martin, his pot lay on the ground. It was empty. Kange. Nanabush remembered asking his mom to watch his meal in the pot. Nanabush asked his mom why it didn't wake him up or watch his cooking meal. Manita Shibna, Manishkanjin the Waisin. I think I love Shin. Because Nanabush's bone was quiet. Cheating Kange Cheating. Kange Tutne Cheating. Nanabush kept asking his mom why, and still Nanabush's bone was quiet. Kange Cheating, Nanabush Cheating. Nanabush was so mad that he sat on a fire pit and burnt his bone. Finally, he stopped fighting his bone and again walked along the shorelines looking for something to eat. With the changes in his ski with many cheating, Mega Shap Pagin visit him, Chichag said many cheating, the she, Ichina, more many cheating. And what was in our life, the Nanabush Mega Pony to the Chichina, more many cheating. Mega Shimaju was said no cheating, gentleman, which in Egypt. Nanabush was looking for something to eat. The wounds were starting to heal where Nanabush had hit his bum, and the scabs fell off onto the ground. As he walked back to the campfire, Nanabush noticed the dry scabs on the ground, and he was so hungry that he started chewing on his bum scabs. Then all of a sudden he heard the little bird sing, Nanabush meets me to make it yan. Nanabush meets me to make it yan. Nanabush meets me to make it yan. And they would not be finished. The little birds kept saying it over and over. Nanabush meets me to make it yan. In English, it means Nanabush is eating his own scabs. Nanabush responded to the little bird. The whole birds chirped louder. Nanabush meets me to make it yan. Nanabush meets me to make it yan. Nanabush got so mad that he started chasing the little birds along the shores of Lake St. Martin. The birds continued chirping. Nanabush meets me to make it yan. Nanabush meets me to make it yan. The little birds, little shrubs, grew by the shoreline where Nanabush ran. These shrubs hit against Nanabush's legs and bone, causing his wounds to open and bleed. His blood dropped against the little shrubs. Again, Nanabush got so mad, he told the shrubs that from that day on that they would not grow big and that they would stay the color of Nanabush's blood. Negation was in and spoke thing, king. These little shrubs are now called the red willows, and the little birds that kept teasing Nanabush are now called chickadees. If you listen to these chirps, you can hear them singing. Nanabush meets me to make it piano. Nanabush meets me to make it piano.
Very good. All right. I'm not sure if we have time to read the other ones. We do want to do a little bit of our Q&A, but I really, enjoyed this story. It's a great story, and that's another thing about our stories is that they can be unfolded, I guess you could say, and there's telling a story that way in which it speaks very much to the kids and the humor of our people. but then those stories can also be unfolded and have deeper meanings for other things, I guess you could say. So that story seems to make you happy and it brought you joy. Do you remember when you first heard it?
I would have been, I was probably young. I was probably about 8, 7, right around there. Because sometimes when, like me, when we'd have supper, that's when my aunt would start telling us stories. But there's another meaning to that story. With Willow, if we did something bad, she'd say, "Go get
Just cut yourself a switch. Yeesh, I can remember how many times I heard that. I was a bad kid. All right. Do we have any questions? Is there anybody out there who has some questions? I can keep talking, but how about you guys think of some questions, and I'll just keep asking some more. Oh, was there a hand up? No? Okay. Okay.
I read poetry and I've been wanting to publish them and they're piling up. What she said, imagine poem, they stop us from flourishing, that's what stops me too. And I know when I see you doing this, it helps me to get a publisher.
You're inspiring people already?
Yeah, it was hard, because like I said, I had to rewrite a lot of those stories over and over. And I came across, like, the one where they burned our home down. And lost the computer and computer being stolen, and not just mine. So, yeah, the one that was just recent was last fall. And a lot of the stories were in there. You're probably saying, well, what were the memory stick?
Okay, well, Nanabush is the trickster spirit.
Yeah.
Do you think that he was maybe messing with you a little bit and bringing his stories home?
Yeah. See, one of the things that he doesn't have a face. He didn't have a face. This is where Kaiya, my illustrator, came together and decided how he was going to look like. And it was kind of a combination with the kids and kind of figured out, okay, there's stuff that we talked about, but came to the conclusion of his face.
Okay, well, can you tell us a little bit about that process? Why did you pick Kaiya? And what were some of the things that you wanted expressed in the visuals?
It's very important to me to be able to work with somebody, and I prayed about it, and I didn't want to be one of those difficult writers, and because I went with another publisher before this, and the illustrator was way out in the Philippines, and so how am I supposed to do that? That was with another publishing company. But when I met Kaiya through MF Merrick, we hit it off right away. And I remember when we got to when she was finished the drawings, and I said to her, I said, "Do you know any kids?" And she said, "Yeah, a couple of kids." She said, "I said, well, take the pictures to the kids and see if they connect with the pictures, if they, laugh." And I mean, I can only use so much my kids when they, and especially when, when the book signing, I think it was over a year and a half. I remember kept telling people, it's coming, in the book signing, and then it would go by. And I felt like the boy that called wolf. But yeah, with Kaiya, like, we worked through the pandemic. Her illustrations are amazing, and looking at the pictures of how we wanted the characters to look like, and actually, these are actually photos like of Lake St. Martin, the surrounding area, the lake, and the willows and mountains. And that front picture here, there's actually by Lake St. Martin, when you get into the beach, there's the little shops are kind of right about bay. And you go there and you actually see some of the backgrounds, and including the trees. The pictures of it.
Did your family ever harvest red willow?
No, because they go wild
Yeah,
in our area, because there's a lot of creeks.
yeah. But did you ever, like they're the basis of what we used to smoke back in the old days. Did you ever harvest it?
What the red window is for us is that it takes away pain, like there's if you peel it and also with the fire. But some parts of that stem of the willow, like if you're hurting someplace, they just chew on the green part of it and it takes the pain.
For people who don't know, tobacco became much more widely used during the fur trade. And prior to that, a lot of the First Nations up north smoked something called, I believe it was kinnick or kinnicky, something like that was how it was pronounced. And it was basically red willow. You take the red willow off, the red part off, and there's a green kind of fuzzy stuff between the outside and the wood, and that green stuff was mixed. So, just for the sake of discussion, so my elders taught me that Wasage, which is sort of like our version of Nanabush, and this is a very secular way of describing our worldview, but so when I put down tobacco for the deer, I'm not only honoring that deer that I just hunted, but I'm also honoring the greater deer spirit through which all deer come from. And so what my teachers tell me is one of the reasons why Nanabush acts so crazy is because he is the human greater spirit. And he's crazy because he not only represents normal, he also represents human extremes, right? And so Nanabush will do something, he's doing something fairly normal, and then all of a sudden he'll do something completely crazy out of left field, and that's because he represents all humanity and all that humans are capable of, bad and good. Is that kind of what you were taught, or anything like that?
Well, there's always a reason as to why we're told those stories. There's like one of the stories that's in the series is that he crawls into Bannock to stay warm. And so when you open it up, when you cut it, there's holes in the mat that say that's where none of us sleep.
Yeah.
But when with my stories, I incorporate what is the word? Like the sand. That's one of my stories. Talks about when you sleep at night, you lay against the sand.
Okay, yes.
But rather than the sand man, it's the sand that none of us should throw around.
Yes.
It landed everywhere and that. So there's a moral behind every one of those stories I incorporate.
Yeah.
And I guess you have to wait and see. I guess
There's a lot of teaching in our stories. All right, well, we're getting close to our time. Does anybody have any questions out there? Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you.
I was gonna ask, how did it feel to, how is it to be able to track? I know sometimes like story
there's our language is so diverse, and our meanings. There's sometimes the meanings there's nothing in English. And if you accidentally say the word in a different way, like that time when I did that native studies at school, he ended up kicking me out because I confronted him because the students were swearing. Because he didn't know. It was like, he asked me to leave. So
Wow.
so you have to be, dialect, one of the things I want to know, like looking at our language, because being in lakes and our communities are so close together, and there's a reason as to why our communities are so together is because our people are so big, so the Indian agent had to divide us up. So when he divided us up, like, because my community has recognized me as a language people. And I noticed talking to people from different communities, their dialect is already different. And like our community, our Bushka band, and what that means is the breaking of the heart. Ashki de, but it's Bushka band. And it's just, you have to be very careful how you say the word. Like I said, because if you don't, you might not say it properly and you might say it derogatory.
You might be swearing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well, before we get to the signing, is there anything you'd like to, oh, that gentleman at the back has a question?
I just would ask, that talking about Nina Bush,
Yes.
and is that, it's,
It's,
you talked about it.
Well, our cultures are comparable to English and French, and we're cousins, basically, right? And so yeah, there is a mythology that goes through, I guess, there were ancestor nations to the Cree and the Anishinaabe and the Saulteaux. And so we came out of those ancestors. And so modern cultures that came out of those ancient cultures have similarities. And so the trickster spirit is something that runs through.
yeah, none of us is, in every cult, in every community, like our like the Cree, the Dene, and because there's over 50 different types of tribes across Canada. And we all have different types of stories pertaining to the spirit. But then, God, some people say that he's humorous in many ways, and but he's like many of us recognize him as a creator, many of us recognize him as our Heavenly Father and God, but sometimes I think when I'm writing, because it really bothered me, because like I'm a Christian, I'm born again. And so when I spoke to the pastor about this, and his wife told me to go ahead to write these stories, even though it's kind of conflicting with what from the Bible, but from our people from before, long ago. This is what they talked about, and I want to preserve that as this way as I know how.
I would like to see that cultures are enriching Christian culture. See that. We push yourself. Bigger connecting with it. I'm very close to these stuff. There is something very good in Christian way of the news. And as you can I think the teaching in the sense that teaching, I think it's like the basis of what is all good.
Well, thank you for that, sir. Thank you for that contribution. Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into religion, but the Bible existed as oral history for thousands of years, longer than it was a book. I would say that modern Christianity is defined by the urban culture these days, and Jesus was indigenous. So there has been a difference in how teachings were changed. So, is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up just before we go?
I just wanted to say that, bigat, kinamakuminidin, kinamaya, ishai, to boy, which got the way, which Yaman was like, if it had been for my mentors, professor, both staff and Kimberly, my children, my aunt and daughter, and my partner for 15 years who's way in the back. But it like all played a role in my being able to publish these and my grammar. Through and through, they helped review it and because being raised where I was raised, and it's been a long journey, yeah, I'd say since 2017. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for your commitment to making these stories happen. They're beautiful little books. They have good messages in them, and so thank you for writing them, and thank you for trusting MFNERC, and thank you for being here today and sharing your ideas and lessons with.
Oh, I forgot to mention, thank you, Terry, for being here too.
All right. We want to thank McNally Robinson for hosting us tonight. Obviously, you can get these books here at McNally Robinson. We encourage you to do so. But I do want to mention the MFNERC website, mfnerc.org. We have a lot of resources that are specific to our communities here in Manitoba. And I encourage you to come down to McNally Robinson, but I also encourage you to take a look at our website. So thank you, everybody. And please give Diana a round of applause.
All right, yeah, we're gonna move to the signing portion of the evening now. So which is gonna take place right here on the table on my right. Please feel free to have a book signed before you visit the cash desk, just so you can get in line and get the book signed. So long as you visit the cash desk before you leave, because that's the big one. But yes, let's give another big thank you to Michael for coming by to host. And of course, a big warm thank you to Diana. Thank you, everybody.